All right then, I'll do some colour. Hello! Trying to put a bit more vigour into my jumping these days. Yes, a return to colour. 2 non-coloured videos in a row. It'll have some of you pulling your hair out, thinking I've gone mad. And some of you thinking I've come to my senses. Right, on the lathe behind me is a piece of ash. It's from a tree that got cut down at school. Funny how it ended up in my workshop. Let's see, ash, 2nd of July 2016. Goodness, was it really that long ago? Well, it's had 4 years to almost dry. It's warped a little, so I'm just going to put a mounting point in it, and then reverse chuck it, turn the back, get a tenon turned, maybe a recess, and then on with the colouring on the other side. I'm feeling quite excited. Here we go then. So I've actually got it mounted on the original tenon, and I'm just turning a little recess in the top, spinning it round. Got a nice true mounting point now, and so I can get the back turned. And I've gone for a single curve on the back, just having a look here at the top edge, making sure that I've got that cut all the way round, help me get the balance of my curves right. And a bit of vibration. I seem to have got the cameras a bit close to the lathe on a couple of these shots, so I hope it doesn't make you feel travel sick or anything. Right, so a shearing cut, just scraping, getting that nice finish on that curve at the bottom. This is with a 3/8 bowl gouge with a long fingernail grind on. My preferred grind, although I am tempted to have a go with the 40/40. Here we go then, usual finishing. After it's been sanded down to 240, it was some cut and polish, and that leaves a nice sort of waxed surface, nice and smooth to the touch. And then turning the top. Now with the top, I wanted to reflect the curve on the bottom and have quite a curve going on in the rim. So most of the shaping was about getting that right. And in order for the curve to be a fair size, it needed to have quite a small opening. Now I sanded this to 400 grit. Normally I stop at 240. Right, here we are then with royal blue stain. You can see I've got a coating of it on. I don't normally sand to 400. I normally stop at about 240 before I put stain on. And it's really interesting the difference it's making about how much it's absorbing in the wood, because it's sitting on the surface a lot longer. And while it's wet though, it does look very, very attractive. Some lovely shimmery bits here where it's picking up a bit of the chatoyance. The feather here is not taking the stain in nearly the same way, but we're going to be cutting that back shortly when it's had a chance to dry. Now some ordinary blue. And that's picking out the feather much more nicely. I don't want there to be lines in the stain, so where I've been wiping on like that, I want to remove those lines. It'll dry, it'll soak in.
I want to try and lighten up this area a little bit. So going just with a little bit of yellow now. Where I used to use a whole cloth, look at these straightened times for kitchen roll. Of course the yellow makes it green. You can see how it's just not going in. It's been sanded much finer than often I would go to. I'm going to not leave this green, so don't panic. See where it's drying around the edges, it's leaving a dark line, which on plainer woods would be quite an attractive technique. But on here where the grain is so prominent, I don't do a lot of work with ash because of that. I really prefer to use the wood as a canvas for the colour rather than bringing grain to life. But this is a pretty spectacular bit of grain to work with. Here I am again with the blue. See, I'm trying to take away those hard lines. Okay, really have got to leave that to dry now. He says, putting more on. Been here before, haven't we? Many times. Right, it's dried overnight. Some really lovely colouring going on and shimmering. So I'm going to put some finishing oil. Just trying out different finishing techniques. I've done wax and I've done lacquer. But finishing oil, well, the last time I did finishing oil was probably a few years ago and I hadn't let it dry properly. So this is now properly dry. If you put this over stain that isn't dry and you've done all your fiddling around with different colours, it will just wipe it all together. And the oil, compared to lacquer, is a much easier finish to put on, of course. And that's really, while it's wet, it looks fantastic. Look at that shine. You can see my window reflected in it. Now I'm going to leave that a few moments to sit on there, and then I'll wipe off any excess after a couple of minutes. Right, coat number 2 of oil, and this did take a long time to dry from the first coat. I think I put too much on, so this time. Okay, it's so quick and easy to put on compared to lacquer, but still a problem with things getting stuck in it. Well, I am very relieved to be back in my shed.
It's been 2 weeks since I last did any filming on this. It's now the 12th of April when I last filmed this year, on the 28th of March. Just had a week or more in bed, feeling rough as anything. So thank you, those of you who knew about it and sent me get well messages. They were really appreciated. So just to finish off this little bit of ash, then I'm just going to turn the middle, sand it, finish it, and then a bit of buffing on the rim, and then it's done. A return to colour. Hope you like it so far. Well, here it is, and sorry you've had to wait so long for a coloured one to come along, but some really lovely colour and figure and grain in that one. But it's probably been my favourite bit of ash. I haven't turned the foot off yet, but you can forgive me for that. And I got some stills, they're coming up. Had to take them in the shed today, and I didn't get my light set up properly, so there are some reflections, as there are in the video, but that's just a sign of how shiny it is. Until next time, thanks for watching. And before we go, apologies for all of you who left comments on last week's video. I have read them, but I wasn't really well enough to put any replies on, so I'll put that right in the next day or two. Please don't let it put you off putting comments below on this one. Cheers.